What's up, BoobTube Nation? I am your host, Just John. Let's get right into the reviews! Guys, I am so glad to be back. And let me tell you something. The last couple of weeks have been a little exhausting for me, between having a lackluster birthday, dealing with some family issues, and being sick for quite a while that I was unable to speak or cough every 5 seconds. It was quite exhausting, but I am back. Oh yeah, and there's also some college work as well, getting some homework done and assignments and whatnot. But I figured I had to take care of those to begin with before I go back to the reviews, which I do appreciate you guys for hanging in there, and also getting some new subscribers as well. If you just happened to subscribe recently to my channel, thank you very much. And with that said, we are going to get right back into it, starting with, in preparation of the new Tomb Raider movie coming out this weekend, I might as well cover some of the more classic Lara Croft Tomb Raider movies. Two of them being, of course, the ones from 2001 and 2003. I do hope that's right. I gotta double check that. And apparently a lot of internet critics are also recapping these movies as well, so I might as well throw my hat into the fire as well and give you my opinions about it. So Lara Croft Tomb Raider is the 2001 action fantasy flick, which entails Lara Croft and a handful of villains racing against time to capture a bunch of powerful artifacts which will change time and space. Pretty much your generic type of temple type movies, but in a little bit more of an over the top, extreme type of way. Now just to let you guys know, I kind of am familiar with the Lara Croft Tomb Raider video game series, and I will have to say that the character herself is a little bit shallow at times. Well, pretty much all the time, which pretty much matches the movie here, and she never was an interest to me. But as a video game character, she was pretty much your generic, shallow-looking video game character who was really good-looking, had big breasts, and also shoot her guns very well, and also happened to solve puzzles and know a lot of archaeological stuff. Not that there's anything wrong with that sort of thing. I'm all for female empowerment, but this one was a little bit ridiculous for its time. And of course, with that ridiculousness, they of course have to throw in Angelina Jolie to go match the character's criteria. And I do have to say that they did a very fine job with the casting for Angelina Jolie. She is pretty much just like the character in the video game, shallow, bosom busted, very attractive looking. Of course, you know, there's some slight differences, but at the same time, it kind of matches her criteria. But I have to say that there was also times where whenever there was a puzzle that needed to be solved or a clue that needs to be unraveled, they kind of just make the character have her smash things or destroy stuff in order to get the objects that she's looking for. And I thought that was pretty short-sighted, if you ask me. And I also find it kind of contrived whenever they need to move the plot along, even though it pretty much reached a dead end. The movie has a way to pretty much pushing her forward in order for her to get to her destination or go to her next clue or something. Whether it be an old package from 15, 16 years ago from her daddy telling her the exposition just as she was solving some sort of mystery of a talisman, or if she needed some clues or she needed to solve a few puzzles here and there, the villains also happened to help her out along the way as well, which I have to say that this is the worst group of villains if you ask me. I mean, don't get me wrong, they had some phenomenal casting, which I didn't realize until now. They had Daniel Craig and Lane Glenn in this movie, which surprisingly enough, I would have to say that these characters were such phenomenal actors, way ahead of their time. But yet, in a movie like this, they were just kind of a little too short-sighted, if you ask me, for villains. Especially old Lane Glenn as Powell, who pretty much comes off as either a pretentious badass or just a pompous little fancy boy where he just always needs to be groomed or something like that. And I just really didn't like that as well. And of course, some of the other side characters like her butler and also her nerdy sidekick pretty much are stereotypical as they're going to get, but at the same time, they're also not quite as insufferable as the villains were. The soundtrack in this movie as well can be a very off-putting at times and not quite digestible. I mean, there are scenes where they actually did the scores just right when it comes to the adventure stuff, but at the same time, when they did some new age fusion of late 90s and early 2000s trash metal music and that sort of thing, it just felt really off-putting, if you ask me. And then, of course, there's the CG work in here, which was okay at times, but at the same time, it felt really stiff and really blocky and very generic. Whether it be stone statues moving at a very slow pace even though they can throw a sword with pinpoint accuracy. Or they showed some time loops where they had like little glowing effects, which you can easily find in green screen effects and After Effects. But they did have some impressive like see-through stuff. And a couple of special effects were okay at times, but it wasn't nothing awe-inspiring, because like I said before, this is early 2000s work, so you pretty much have to work with what you get. And then there was also some jokes at times which they tried to make it funny, but it felt a little too contrived and not that great, especially with the British jokes, because I heard so many buggers and bloody hells and son of a and all those types of things, which I found to be pretty annoying. I can understand it was a PG-13 movie, so they gotta appease all the audiences, especially the horny little teenagers, but it wasn't really that good. And with that said, I will have to give my final rating for this first movie is, without a doubt, a 2 out of 5 stars. It's not that enjoyable, but if you are a die-hard fan of video games and of course the Tomb Raider series, then this is the movie for you. And with that said, I hope you guys like what you see. And if you guys have some opinions about the movies, feel free to let me know in the comment section below. And if you guys want to support my channel in any way, feel free to hit me up on Patreon, subscribe, and all that other fun junk, or watch some of my other previous movie vlogs. And with that said, BoobTube Nation, now over 326 subscribers.